Hello, today we are going to look at these pointers in C++, and the prerequisite is that you should be knowing programming in C++. So before going to the actual topic, let me introduce a C++ program just to understand the basics. Okay. See, I have a main program here. The main program says that I have a class called as ABC and I have two objects A and B. So A is calling get data and then A is calling display data, which means that A is going to get the data from the keyboard, and A object is calling display data to display whatever the values you got it from the keyboard. So this is the two member functions available under this ABC class, and let us look at the class now. There is a class called as ABC here, and this ABC has two variables x and y, which is going to be private. So once it is declared as private, which means that you cannot access directly from the main. And there are two public functions, get data and display data, and this get data is going to get the values for x and y from the keyboard, and display data is going to display the values of x and y for on the screen. So now if you look at the get data, C out, we are going to get the value for x and we are going to get the value for y also. This is the definition of get data now. And display data is displaying the value on the screen, the value of x and y. Okay, and these two functions are declared outside the class, so that's why I'm using the scope resolution operator. Okay, so when I call this get data using an object called as A is an object which is declared of type EBC class, which means that it has x and y as a private member. Okay, so a.x cannot be there in the main program. We cannot access x and y using this a and b object in the main program because it is declared as private here. So only the public functions you can access it in the main program. So now you're calling a.getData and you are getting the value for x and y. So who is calling this getData function? GetData function is called by an object called as a. Okay, so a's x and y is taken from the keyboard. Similarly, you have a.displayData, which is nothing but it is going to display the value of x and y which belongs to a. Okay, so what we can infer from this is a is the object which is calling the member function, and within the member function the object's values are directly accessible. You can access the values of x and y within the getData function directly by calling x and y itself. Okay, so this is the basic thing which I wanted to tell you before going to the this pointer here. Okay, so we are going to see about what is a this pointer, and we are also going to see about an example how to use this pointer here. Okay, so what are the basics we have learned? Any private member we cannot access directly with an object. Okay, we can access the private members through public members only, which is available in the class by declaring an object. Okay, thank you. Now let us go to this pointer. So we are going to take an example of a program which is going to tell you about getting two employee details, and we are going to find out which employee is getting more salary. Okay, so I have written this program. So here we are not concentrating more on the compiler and how do you compile, how do you run the application, because you should be having the environment ready with you. I am just explaining with this pointer here. So basically here I have a class called as employee, and this employee has employee code, employee name and employee salary as a private member. Okay, and as we discussed, when the private, whenever it is declared as private, you cannot access directly in the main function. Okay, only the public functions can access the private members. Okay, so now I am having the same get data and display data function here. So get data function is nothing but we are going to get the values of employee code, employee name and employee salary. So I have written the function called as get data outside the class with the scope resolution operator to get the values of employee code, employee name and employee salary here. So this function will be called by an object, and that object's employee code, employee name and salary is got from the keyboard. And similarly, one object is going to call display data, because this display data is a member of this employee class. So employee object can call this display data, and display data is going to display the employee code, name and salary of the object which is calling it. Now let us look into the main program. The main program has an employee class E1, E2 and E3. That is, there are three declared objects E1, E2 and E3 which belongs to employee class. Okay, so I am getting the data for employee 1 and I am displaying the value of the employee, whatever I have got it from the keyboard. Same way, E2 dot get data is going to get the value of employee 2, and employee 2 is displayed on the screen. Now I am writing a function called as greater function, which is going to display, which is going to take the values of two employee details, find which employee is getting more salary, and it is going to return the employee details back to the main function, which is having the greater salary. So that function I have written it like the definition of this greater function is going to be the return value is going to be employee, and the employee is the value which is passed on. One value is passed here. Actually, for getting the greater than two employees, we need two values of two employees here. One is employee here, which I am passing it here, and the greater function is a member of this employee class, and that can be called by an object. So one object is calling this greater function, and one object is passed as a parameter. So that is what is happening here. When I'm calling this greater function with E1, and I'm passing this E2 value to this, so that the greater function has E1's value also, at the same time E2's value also. So here in the greater function, what I'm doing it is I'm checking if a dot employee salary what is passed here, it is E2, the employee 2's value is passed to A. So if a dot employee salary, that is whatever E2's salary is greater than E1 salary. How do you say that this is E1 salary? Because E1 is calling this greater function, so directly it is available here. So a dot employee salary is greater than employee salary here, then return A. Suppose in case if this becomes false, then I need to return the employee 1's value back. So for returning back, we use this pointer. This pointer is nothing but it is going to point to the object which is calling the function within that particular function. So here I am saying star this star this is nothing but it is going to send the values back here. So with the greater function, you have a dot employee salary. If that is going to be greater, a is returned back. Whatever you are passing to the function is returned back. Otherwise, whatever object which is calling the greater function, that has to be returned. That return value is going to be star this. Why this star this? Star this is nothing but it is returning the values of the object which is calling it. So the use of this pointer is nothing but it is going to be pointing to the object which is calling the function. Thank you.